Welcome to the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I, of course, am your host, Dean Phillips. The Destiny of Manufacturing podcast is brought to you by the Precision Metal Forming Association, and it's powered by the PMA, of course. I am, of course, your host for this journey. From the North American Stamping Group today, I have with me, and I'm very proud to have with me today is Larry Dickens, who is the training manager over at North American Stamping Group, who has done an outstanding job with his apprenticeship program and training employees of tomorrow. Welcome, Larry.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks for having me today.
It is my honor, let me tell you. So right away, what is your big takeaway if you look forward over the next 5 years? What do you see changing or coming down the road for our challenges?
Well, what I think we're going to see in the next 5 years is what we've already been seeing in the past 5 years, and that is a shortage of skilled labor and even semi-skilled labor. We're going to see the workplace is very tight, or the workforce is tight as it is, but I think we're going to see that continued need for skilled labor and even semi-skilled labor. And I think that the only way that we're going to survive as a company or as an industry is that we have to train the people that we've got, the people that we know, and the people that show up for work every day. We're going to have to train them to do these skilled positions.
Absolutely. You know, and so give me a little bit of your background. How did you get involved in that?
That's I guess I grew up. I'll just have to say my dad was a tool and die maker. So I've always been interested in the mechanical things, and of course in high school I took machine shop, and he let me come and work in the afternoons at the place that he worked. He was the foreman of a tool and die shop, and I got to do things there. And so when I went to college, I took mechanical engineering and got out of school, and immediately they stuck me behind a desk somewhere ordering supplies and ordering tooling or some little things like that. And very quickly, I became dissatisfied, and I wanted to get my hands dirty again. I wanted to be back in the thick of making things. And so I went back into tool and die and been there now 45 plus years, actually 47 years, I think it is now. In every facet of it, from apprentice to tool and die maker to special machine operator, wire EDM. I ran the very first wire machine in Sumner County. I then, because of my college degree, I was able to transfer into design. From design, I went into engineering, and engineering on into sort of running the shop. And then I stepped into an odd role of I became my own boss as had a design business for a few years, and then a baby on the way made me think I had to get a real job, so I got into metal stamping industry, and from there I've done a lot of different things as far as tooling engineer, an engineering manager, that kind of thing, and then still in dabbling in design a lot of that time as well. And so having tools built, having gauges built, those kind of things. And so worked for NASG when they were Tennessee Stampings, actually, as a tooling engineer, left for a few years, and then they invited me back as tooling manager, and I've been here since 2015. So it's been an interesting journey, but I'll have to say that this is probably the most rewarding job that I've ever had, as far as this aspect of teaching, this aspect of showing new people how to do what I've learned over the years.
Yeah. And I have to compliment you and everybody at North American Stamping Group of the great job that you have done. I've been fortunate enough to actually tour your facility and see your program, and it is first class. You've done a tremendous job.
We're very proud of it. Yes.
As well you should be. Well, you should be, because you guys have put a lot of work into it, and it isn't easy. So let's talk about it not being easy. Let's talk about some of the challenges that you're faced with when you try and get an apprenticeship off the ground.
That is, it is daunting, I will say. When you first start, when they first hired me, I had no idea. I'm a tooling guy. I'm not an administrator or a teacher, or at least I didn't think I was, And so I thought I've got to learn all this. But the hard part is getting your arms around what's involved. There are a lot of good agencies out there. There are a lot of good help, you might say. The DOL is they're good to work with, but they're hard to get a hold of a lot of times. They're very spread very thin, and so when you have questions, it's a little difficult. But one of the things that has happened over these last few years is that the federal Department of Labor has turned apprenticeships over to the state level, and fortunately, here in Tennessee, we have an extremely good Tennessee Department of or Office of Apprenticeship. And those folks are extremely helpful and will help you get your program started, help you through the paperwork. As I said, I guess the hardest part for people like me, and in the industry, that's what you're going to see, are people like me, not your seasoned educators and not your seasoned bureaucrats. So it's hard for us to dabble in that governmental paperwork and the governmental restraints. And so all the help that you can get is appreciated. So like I said, the Tennessee Department of Labor and the Office of Apprenticeship have been extremely helpful. They reached out to me even after I had been doing it for a time and got to know me and came to see my program and different things and offered suggestions and help. And the Workforce Essentials group here in Tennessee has helped me with some grant money over the years and things like that. So it's just been there are people there. There are things in place that help you. So if you're a company out there and you're thinking about an apprenticeship, the schools in your area, the technical schools, can be a source of help. Many of them would desire to do your RTI or your related theory instruction. We choose to do our own. We choose to do our own RTI in-house, and we do our own training, of course, OJT on the floor. But you've seen our shop and our classroom, and so we're very well geared for that. But it's a huge investment. It's a big investment, and not everybody's willing. But I will say this: if you're out there and you're looking to start an apprenticeship program, and as you said, what makes it difficult is that nothing worthwhile comes free, or nothing worthwhile comes without work. And the apprenticeship program is much like that. So be prepared to invest in training your people. Be prepared. Don't think that you're going to get a really effective apprenticeship program and let somebody else do all of your training, because it's not going to happen. You're going to have to train. So I'm not saying you can't find a school. We choose to do our own RT. I'm not going to say you can't find your school, but you need to work with that school, and you need to talk to those instructors and those administrators at the school and tell them what it is that you need. Be very specific. Your company is different from my company. You need to let them know what it is you're looking for, and likely they will be able to help you, at least to some degree. And if you're going to do it yourself, like we do, then look around your workforce. Look for somebody like me, somebody with a lot of years, somebody that's ready to give back, somebody that would like to slow down, maybe as far as the stress of the day-to-day business goes, and invest in your workforce for you. So I really think that a lot of companies, if they would look inside, they would find that those people or that person that would be willing to and qualified to be that administrator slash teacher slash facilitator of their apprenticeship program. So we're out there, we're in every company a lot of times. And so I have been extremely fortunate to have the backing of upper management here at NASG. I can't tell you how great it is that that they're on board, that they see the results, and that they let me continue to do what it is that we do here. So that was probably
And
more than you wanted for that answer, but that's
no, no, that's perfect. And in fact, it leads me into my next question, which is talking about leadership. One of the challenges that we see out there every time I go into a plant and every time I talk to a plant about training, because the
Mhm.
PMA has our in-plant training side of our workforce development. And one of the most important things, and I tell companies this all the time, is you have to have a level of commitment to this project.
Yes,
And the reason I say that is because most companies, if you don't already have a continuous education plan built into you, the first problem you're going to have is how do I get somebody off the floor for an hour or 2 hours or more per week?
yes,
How do you do that? Because it's not built into the system when you start. So you have to get into that mindset of continuing to develop your employees. So
absolutely.
tell me a little bit about that part of the system. When you got involved, what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome to make sure that everybody was on board with that and make sure that they understood that there was going to have to be not only a financial commitment, but
Mhm.
a time commitment from the employees?
That's a very good understanding, or a very good. I'm glad you've seen that, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because that's one of the things that people don't quite grasp is just how involved it can be, and that the fact that not only do you have to have a program and a teacher and the things like that, but you've got to let those people come to class, and that's hard when you're busy, when you're working, when for a stamping plant. They make their money when the parts come off the end of the press, right? So if there's not someone there to run that press or to catch those parts, then you're not making your money. So yes, that is difficult, but been very fortunate here. And I guess what I want to share with others out there is, well, I'll tell you a little bit of background how we got here, and that is, I want to think that our company worked with Harbor Results, or if it wasn't them, it was somebody like them. A consulting company came in, and I will say, I, I, I feel bad about saying it sometimes, but I have to brag on the management here, because they're always thinking about the future, and that's so comforting for an employee at a place to know that they're thinking about the future. And so they had the consulting company come in and say, what do we need to do to be productive, or to be in business for the next 25 years? What do we need to do? And they came back, and two of the big things were, number one, they told them you're going to have to create a build shop within your organization, because this was post 2008 2009 recession area, and it was of course pre-COVID and all that kind of stuff. But it was a time where we had lost a lot of domestic tool and die capability. And not to say that there's not still great shops out there, they are, but they told us that we would have to create a build shop. So they did that. We actually have a build shop in one of our Canadian facilities and also in one of our Ohio facilities. So they can build our tooling and also our assembly equipment. So that being done. And the second thing they told us that you're going to have to do is that you're going to have to train tool and die makers. You're going to have to train your skilled labor, because you're not going to be able to find it on the street. And so in 2015, when they hired me to do this, to fill this position, there was a sign out front of our building that said $4,000 sign-on bonus for any employee that can bring a tool and die maker into our facility. Actually a sign-on bonus for that person, and a bonus for our people for recommending that person. And we were still coming up blank. We were still not able to fill all of our needs. And so that helped our company understand that we've got to invest. So that they created the program, and by creating the program, they knew that they were going to have to let these people train. Fortunately for tool and die, these guys train on their own time, 10 hours. The way our program is structured now, they train 1 day a week from 6 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon with me, and that's unpaid time. That's their skin in the game, or that's their payment for their education, which costs them nothing, by the way. They still get 40 plus hours a week of work. So they're working, they're earning money, and they're getting an education for free. They just have to invest the time. And so that's one thing, one way you can structure your program so that you're not taking away from your manufacturing hours. Our other program is a 1-year program. The tool and die program is 4 years. The press operator program is a registered program with the Department of Labor as well, and it's a 1-year program, 2,000 hours OJT and 144 minimum for the RTI. And that program is a paid program. So they have to let the people come to class, and they come to class 2.5 hours at a time, twice a week. So a total of 5 hours of training a week, but they get that training done in 2.5 hours. So try to get it at the beginning of the shift or the end of a shift. And so it's not quite as hard. If the person hadn't started working, it's a little easier for them to filter in here to class, then go into the shop. And then at the end of the shift, if they quit a little early, and come in, and they're able to do that. So we try to work with production schedules, and I'll be honest, there's been a couple of times because of the workload that we've had to cancel a class or two. Not often. They understand that when that happens, it just extends the program. That just means it's going to be longer before that person can be on the floor at all times. So we do something that the DOL calls front loading with our education, our classroom work, and that is we get it in quickly, we get it in spurts. And so even though the program is 4 years and the other program is 1 year, I do all of the tool and die RTI is done in 2 years. All of the press operator RTI is done in about 8 months. So the next 4 months, they're in the shop full time. They don't have to break away and come to class because we've really invested heavily to get, while that person was less proficient at the job, they're spending more time in the classroom, but as they grow in proficiency, they spend more time in the shop that way. So they really get the best benefit from their education that way.
Right. Now, one other thing I'll say is that I know that you guys, from a material standpoint, you guys use Metal Form EDU for
Yeah.
some of your materials.
Yes.
But I think the other aspect that you also do is specific equipment training, meaning that you are actually training on the equipment you're using, which
Yes.
it is invaluable. I think there's a place for both, but you
Mhm.
have to have a balance there of where you have that high level training of
Yes.
that's non-specific, but then you have to put it in your hands. You have to
Yes.
touch the equipment you're going to be using. How valuable is it for both sides of those?
Well, it's extremely valuable to have both, but you're absolutely right. You can spend all your time in the classroom and really never learn how to run a press or run a mill or a lathe. You've got to touch it. Our industry is all about hands-on. It's all about touching. It's all about the parts and the machinery. And so yes, you have to have both because the classroom opens their minds to different things that they haven't thought about, things that they don't see, things that they don't have time to think about when they're out in the shop possibly. But the also being out in the shop and touching it is when it all gels, when it all comes together. So PMA has excellent material, especially for our press program. We use it, but as you saw when you came to visit, we don't just use the metalform.edu materials exclusively. What I do is, for instance, let's just say that I've got new students and I'm training those new students to be a press operator, and they come in here into the classroom and we start taking some classes about what a press is and how a press works and what goes on, and most all of these folks are at least pack offs at this point. And so they're out there in the press shop. They see it, they hear it. They're not always the ones pushing the buttons and running the machine, but they're out there and they're working. But in the classroom, they're learning then about, well, why does this happen and how does it happen? But so the material is great, but what we do is we start implementing the hands-on stuff here, even in the classroom. So, for instance, I teach them all how to read measuring instruments of all kinds. We start with tape measures, we go to steel rules, we go to calipers, micrometers, indicators of all kinds, because I tell them, you may be in a situation where we're doing a run it rate on a new die and the gauge isn't finished yet, and you're going to have to check this part with a height gauge and indicator and calipers and micrometers right there at your workstation, and as they're running these new parts. So you need to know how to do that. So they're in here and they're taking classes about how to read a caliper, how to read micrometers, but they're also holding them in their hands in a controlled environment, where we're taking blocks, NIMS blocks that my tooling guys have made, and they're measuring those and checking them. So I know they're all right because they passed inspections. So when they measure those, I know exactly whether they're reading those calipers and micrometers and things like that correctly. And so they learn. So everything we do is a mix. And so I'm going to hold my hands up here. And what we do is we take actual classroom work, hands-on things, and we mesh it with the PMA metalform.edu classes. I make them take them in specific order and at specific times throughout the program, so that what we're doing in the classroom and what we're doing on the computer made up, and they help each other, they build on one another, and hopefully that then shows up out there on the floor as they're being taught. Now, I think one thing that I guess I failed to mention, or that we failed to talk about, are the journey workers. The mentors and the journey workers that are in the shop. So you have to have folks out in the shop who are willing to and capable of being that shadow, or that trainer, that helper, because OJT is the largest part of an apprenticeship program. The RTI is wonderful, but the OJT is where the learning really happens, and where it takes root. And those are your journey workers. Those are your experienced people who are sharing what they know with the students. And I'll be honest, I tell my students and all the time, I says, you can learn from a good tool and die maker, and you can learn from a bad tool and die maker. Sometimes what you learn is what not to do, right? Same thing with a press operator. You can learn a lot from everyone, but some of them are better than others, and you can learn what to do and learn what not to do. And so it's extremely important. So there needs to be some management for that group of people, as well as just the classroom element for the students as well. There needs to be, some work in the plant,
right,
for that too.
Larry, the time passed so fast
Oh
here.
my,
We really
yeah.
appreciate you being on here. Tell me, one last question, which is, why are you involved with the Precision Metal Forming Association?
Well, our company has always been, as far as I know, has always been involved, or at least as long as I've been affiliated with it. And so I find that PMA is our voice out there. They're our voice in the nation, in the industry, in the government. They're our tie to other companies. That's how, some companies can be very shut off and very closed. They want to keep their stuff to themselves, and I suppose we are that way to a certain extent, but PMA gives us an outlet. They give us an opportunity to go and meet with other companies, with other people who do the same thing we do, or who do similar work that we do, and we can share our thoughts, our ideas. We can take different, I know here in Tennessee, we have a great district chapter, I guess, of PMA, and we're able to go into different plants and have tours and have round tables and lunch and learns and things like that. We do supplier nights where we all gather together and invite people to come in and see what it is that we do, and things that are available. So PMA has just been a great resource, for me, for our programs, but it's just a great organization, and something that I think all companies that are in our business should be associated with.
Absolutely. I appreciate you so much, Larry. Thank you for being on here with us today.
Thank you, Dean.
We really appreciate it. And I want to thank you for your time, but I also want to thank our audience's time for joining in and being part of this. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at pma.org, and we can put you in touch with Larry if you've got questions, and we'll try and help in any way we can. Because at the end of the day, we are an association, meaning we have associates. All of us contribute to make our industry better. So thank you all very much for that, and especially you, Larry. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dean.